Somewhere right now, someone just finished dinner, reached for a glass of water, and then paused, hand hovering over the glass because a relative once told them drinking water right after a meal dilutes your stomach acid and ruins digestion. So they wait. 20 minutes, 30 minutes, sometimes a full hour, thirsty the entire time, based on advice that sounds scientific but has never actually been tested and found true. Nobody ever showed them a study, it was simply said with enough confidence that questioning it felt unnecessary. That single habit, repeated by millions of people worldwide, is a perfect example of today's video is about. Eating myths spread differently than most misinformation. They rarely arrive as a bold claim you can fact-check in 5 seconds. Instead, they sound like common sense, passed down from a parent, a gym friend, or a headline you half remember, repeated so often that repetition itself starts to feel like proof, until nobody can quite remember where the rule actually came from in the first place. So, today's list works through 10 of the most widespread eating habit myths using one simple test. What does the actual peer-reviewed research say? Not what sounds intuitive, not what's been repeated the most, and not what a supplement company would prefer you believe. Some of these myths are completely false. A few are more like exaggerations of something technically true, a real finding stretched past what the evidence actually supports. Either way, here's what the research actually shows. Number 10 is the one we started with. Drinking water right after a meal ruins your digestion. Your stomach doesn't work like a chemistry set that gets ruined by dilution. It continuously produces acid and enzymes as needed, and a glass of water passes through relatively quickly without meaningfully changing your stomach's overall acidity for long. Some research even suggests water can help move food along and support comfortable digestion rather than hinder it. If waiting to drink feels better for you personally, that's fine, but there's no solid mechanism forcing anyone to suffer through a half hour after eating. Number 9 is the claim that eating late at night directly makes you fat, all on its own, regardless of anything else. What actually drives weight change is your total calorie intake and the overall quality of your diet across the day, not the specific hour a meal happens to land on the clock. The real reason late-night eating often correlates with weight gain in studies is behavioral, not metabolic. People eating late are frequently snacking mindlessly, choosing convenient processed food, or eating on top of a full day of meals rather than in place of one. The clock isn't the villain here, the pattern around it usually is. Number 8 is the idea that you must eat every 2 to 3 hours to keep your metabolism revved up or it will slow to a crawl. Research comparing frequent small meals against fewer larger ones, when total calories and protein are matched, consistently finds no meaningful difference in metabolic rate or fat loss between the two approaches. Your metabolism is far more stable than this myth suggests, and eating frequency turns out to matter mostly for personal preference and blood sugar comfort, not for some fragile metabolic fire that needs constant feeding to stay lit. Number 7 is breakfast being the most important meal of the day, a phrase repeated so often it sounds like settled science. Randomized trials comparing breakfast eaters to breakfast skippers have generally found no significant difference in weight or metabolic health between the two groups when the rest of the day's eating is accounted for. Breakfast can absolutely be useful for concentration, mood, or simply making the rest of your day easier to manage, but it isn't metabolically mandatory, and skipping it isn't secretly sabotaging your health the way this myth implies. Number 6 is the detox tea or juice cleanse, promising to flush toxins out of your body. Your liver and kidneys already perform this exact job, continuously, filtering and neutralizing waste products around the clock without needing a specialty tea to activate the process. No peer-reviewed research has ever identified a specific toxin that a commercial cleanse measurably removes that these organs weren't already handling. Any short-term weight change from a cleanse is almost always water weight and reduced calorie intake, not toxins leaving your system in some special new way. Number 5 is spicy food causing stomach ulcers, a belief so old it still shows up in casual advice today. Modern research has identified the real primary causes of most ulcers: infection with a bacteria called H. pylori and long-term use of certain pain medications like NSAIDs. Spicy food can irritate an already existing ulcer and make symptoms temporarily worse, but it doesn't create one from scratch in a healthy stomach lining. The chili pepper compound, capsaicin, has actually been studied for potential protective effects on stomach lining in some research, nearly the opposite of its old reputation. Number 4 is MSG being dangerous, sometimes still referred to as an outdated and frankly biased term tied to one cuisine. Decades of double-blind research have failed to find a consistent, reproducible link between MSG and the symptoms it's been blamed for, and the FDA classifies it as generally recognized as safe, the same category as ordinary table salt. MSG is chemically identical whether it's naturally occurring in a tomato or added to a bowl of soup. Your body processes it the exact same way either time, which makes singling out one cuisine over this ingredient a myth built more on bias than biochemistry. Number 3 is sugar making kids hyperactive, one of the most confidently repeated parenting myths in existence. Multiple controlled studies, including ones where parents were told a child had received sugar when they actually hadn't, found no measurable behavioral difference caused by sugar itself. What researchers did find is fascinating. Parents who believed their child had eaten sugar rated them as more hyperactive regardless of what the child actually consumed, suggesting the myth might be shaping perception more than it's shaping behavior. Number 2 is high-protein diets damaging healthy kidneys. This fear largely originated from research on people who already had existing kidney disease, where reduced protein intake is genuinely recommended as part of managing that condition. In people with normal, healthy kidney function, research has not found that higher protein intake causes kidney damage or accelerates any decline. The advice makes sense for a specific medical population and gets misapplied as a universal warning to everyone, which is a pattern that shows up constantly in nutrition myths. And number 1, maybe the most universally repeated eating and drinking rule of all time: you need to drink exactly 8 glasses of water a day. This specific number has no clear scientific origin, and actual hydration needs vary enormously based on body size, activity level, climate, and even how much water-rich food someone eats in a day. Most nutrition guidelines today point people toward drinking based on thirst and monitoring urine color as a simple practical guide, rather than hitting one fixed number that was never really derived from solid research in the first place. Notice what almost every myth on this list has in common: a kernel of something reasonably sounding stretched into a rigid rule that ignores context, individual variation, or the actual research behind it. A finding about people with kidney disease becomes a warning for everyone. A study on one small effect becomes an absolute law repeated at every dinner table. None of these myths are stupid. That's exactly why they spread so easily. They sound like the kind of thing a doctor might say, delivered with the same confidence whether or not anyone behind it ever opened a research paper. The real habit worth building isn't memorizing this list, it's getting comfortable asking one simple question the next time a confident-sounding eating rule shows up in your feed or across a dinner table. Has anyone actually tested this, or does it just sound true because everyone keeps repeating it?